Good morning.
I
Oh, we have to open
welcome
up
you
chat.
all. I welcome you all to this class on the topic of procurement management. In fact, it is very much important topic and important area of management. Uh, I'll introduce myself. I am Mohammad Saghir. I'm working as an independent consultant, and you can see my email address here. And I have got two master degrees, one in commerce, the other in political science.
So everybody, if you want to take a photograph of his
Oh,
email,
okay,
so that if
please.
you have questions for your assignments, you can always email a question to him. And that
Any
way it'll
question will
help you
be
with your
welcome.
assignment.
Okay, please. You can see my email address.
Okay.
Hey, I'm working in the development sector since 1984. And during this period, most of the time I have been working with international organizations for managing development as well as emergency projects. I worked with the United States Agency for International Development, United Nations World Food Program, Catholic Relief Services, United Nations Development Program. As far as my services are concerned, I have rendered services in different areas. And I am very much pleased to let you know that I am teaching AIU students for the last more than 1 year. And I have carried out many monitoring and evaluation for national as well as international organizations. I participated as a team member as well as a team lead for carrying out participatory poverty appraisal and research. Uh, I've been working with community in the rural areas. And I have also rendered my services for creating disaster risk management plan as a team lead and standard operating procedures for emergency response. I have carried out many trainings in different areas. And before conducting any training, I have been conducting training need assessment and then conducted the trainings. My major areas of training were related to business planning, report writing skill, gender, gender analysis, gender mainstreaming, financial management, project management, disaster risk management, monitoring and evaluation. And now we come to the learning objectives of today's class. The learning objective is to enhance academic knowledge and skills of AIU students in the following areas. During this class, we will be discussing about the major terms of the procurement management. So we have clear understanding what terms are used in the procurement management. And we will discuss the definition of procurement management and most importantly, the process and the principles of procurement management. There are certain principles we'll be talking. Those are very important and necessary while managing procurement. And we will also talk about the types and trends of procurement. And there is a term which is called bid, what is bid and what is tender and what is the purpose of these. And we will also differentiate different terms. For instance, difference between procurement and tendering, procurement and purchase, and what is meant by identification of services and category analysis. These all will be a part of today's class, and there are some more. Uh, in fact, it is going to be a comprehensive session today, and we will talk about what is purchase requisition, supplier identification, vendor, how to negotiate with the suppliers, and how the tenders are approved, and what is the criteria for contracting the suppliers. And once they are contracted, how can be they managed, and purchase order, when the good comes in, what is the process for its inspection and what are the documents required for that, and how to make the payment. So these all areas we are going to cover today in this class, and I hope for active participation from all of the participants. And as far as the structure of this class is concerned, I'll make a presentation first as per the objectives. And during the class, I'll ask different questions from the participants so that they have active participation. And if they have questions, then will be having a question answer session at the end of the class. And we will be having closing remarks session at the end of class. As far as the presentation, this presentation is concerned, it will be updated on the AIU system, and uh, anyone can access to this presentation from there. And now come to the major points related to procurement management. These are quote, will be talking about quote, what is that? Business, best value. It is related to the organization. Yeah. What is negotiation, contracting, tender, selling? These are all procurement management terms: services, goods, suppliers, vendor, purchasing, bid, competition, supply, buying, market research, requisition, acquisition, price, inspection, benefit. So all of these terms will be uh, discussed during this class while talking about different areas of procurement management. Now we come to the definition of procurement management. In fact, it is a strategic process for acquiring goods or services. It is for both, for the goods as well as for the services, or work from external sources to, to operate and achieve objectives. Whenever we talk about management and these activities, even for procurement management, we keep in mind what are the objectives. So in this area, we will also keep in mind what are the objectives so we are able to achieve. And the process includes identifying goods or services needed, what type of services are needed, what type of goods are needed. And of course, it starts with the planning and sourcing, negotiating with suppliers, purchasing, receiving, inspecting, making payments, and keeping the records. So these all activities, those come under the definition of procurement. And now procurement management. In fact, it is related to overseeing all the process which is involved in acquiring the goods or services. We said that the procurement is not only for goods, it is also for services. So it comes goods or services. It manages documents for payment to suppliers. All the related documents are kept in record. And it is all related to the policy of any organization, what type of documents are required, and for the sake of different reasons, for instance, for the sake of audit or other purposes, these documents should be kept in record as per the organization's policy. And the policies can be different from organization to organization. And the management is an external suppliers ensure the acquisition of goods and services at the best possible cost. As you know, when we talk about the resources, any type of resources, especially when we talk about financial resources, resources are always limited. So in this case, the cost is a major factor, and we should try to acquire any service or any good at the best possible cost. And most important thing is about procurement management is that it directly impact on maximizing business profit. The question in mind it comes that how come uh, procurement management can maximize the profit? The thing is that when we get the goods or services at the best value, so it is linked with the profit at good price, good value, cost effectiveness. So that contributes in that sense and for achieving the goals. And briefly, we'll talk about the procurement process. What is the process involved in the procurement? The procurement process depends on the nature of business organization. However, we can discuss at this stage the general framework that can be applied. It is related to three areas. One is sourcing, purchasing, and the payment stage. When we talk about the source stage, it is identification of supplier. There are different sources. From those sources, the suppliers could be identified, and purchase request is created by the organization's staff or the company's staff, and the supplier's assessment is done based on a criteria. Established criteria is maintained, and again it is again related to the policy of the organization. As far as the purchasing stage is concerned, and buyer and seller though both sit together and they negotiate the terms and condition. Once they agree, the contract is made and the goods and services are received and inspected. As far as the receiving of goods and inspection of goods is concerned, we will talk in detail that what should be key areas to inspect. How can we inspect services or goods? So that will also be included in this class. And then at the end, there is a payment stage. Conduct inspection, approve invoice, and arrange payment. Finally, keep the record. And now, principles of procurement. What are the principles of procurement? There are ethical concerns within the area of procurement. In fact, it is very much sensitive area where there is a need to be very transparent, honest, and there should be no fraud in making any kind of procurement. It could be goods or services. And we consider the principle that there should be best value for money. All the factors related to cost and benefit must be concerned, like quality and efficiency, fairness and transparent. All the all the suppliers should be considered equally, and they should be uh, allowed to participate in a transparent way without any fraud. Effective competition. For effective competition, we need to share the required information with any suppliers who is interested, and the information should be equally provided to them without any discrimination. Best interest of organization. Always we have to consider the best interest. I will give a simple example of our personal purchases. When we go out for purchases, we try to get a good quality thing in a cheapest way. So same is applied here. It must be cost effective and must be in fact in best interest of the organization or business, and it should add value to that. These are the key principles related to procurement management. And now shortly I'll talk about the types of management. Broadly, we can say there are two types. One is related to goods and the other is services. So if we further break these types, we can say that direct procurement is procuring any goods that is required to produce a product, and it is procured from the supplier. It may include items uh, from wholesaler or released to customers. And indirect procurement, it includes essential items. Those are used on daily basis or on day-to-day basis of the operation. This can include anything from office supplies, furniture, consulting services, equipment and maintenance. Goods procurement largely refers to the procurement of physical items. It includes both direct and indirect procurement. And as far as the services procurement is concerned, it focuses on procuring people-based services. And what are these services? These could be depending on the company. This may include hiring individuals on contract basis or contingent labor. It could be law firms. It could be security services, and any other type of services are included in that. Now I come to a question. I'll ask a question from you. Uh, it says procurement management has a direct impact on maximizing business profit. Please write down your answer in comment in chat. The question is procurement management has a direct impact on maximizing business profit. Is it true or false? What do you think? Okay, let's see the answer. The answer is true. Yes, procurement management has a direct impact on maximizing business profit. Great. Now we move forward. There was a term tender. So what is this? A tender is a formal invitation to suppliers to submit bids for the provision of goods or services. In the tender, all the required information which is eh, related to quality, quantity, time, cost, these are asked from the suppliers, and it is a specific part of the procurement process. The procurement process starts with once the suppliers are identified, then they are shared information related to the tender. It is an invitation to suppliers to submit all that information. And the purpose of tendering is when there is a need of goods or services, the procurement team of an organization releases a tender to let the potential suppliers know that they are accepting bids. The tenders could be shared by different means, by digital media, print media, or whatever is required at the time, or the best way to communicate. This formal approach has a vital role to play in identifying suitable suppliers. It helps to find suitable suppliers. Suitable suppliers, who are the suitable suppliers? The suitable suppliers are those are capable for regular supply of goods or services. They have good quality at good cost, and this criteria must be considered when we say suitable supplier. And there must be good working relationship with all the suppliers, and buyer and supplier must have good relationship. And now we will be talking about bid. A bid is a proposal submitted by supplier. First, there was tender from the buyer. Now it is the bid which is supplied by the buyer in response to procurement request or tender. A bid must be submitted in a specified format, and it should include all the relevant information about the supplier's product or services. In addition to other factors, the lowest, the lowest price bidder wins. In fact, we will say that there is a criteria. There is not one thing that we can say the price is the only criteria. No, the quality, the right time, and the competitive price, and a certain percentage is given while examining, and then for selection, that criteria is considered for ranking of the suppliers. We talked about procurement, tendering, and now we can see what are the differences between these two. Procurement encompasses various documents such as procurement plan, contract agreement, and performance evaluation of the suppliers. Whereas tendering involves the preparation and issuance of tender documents, including instructions to tenders, tenderers, specification and evaluation criteria. Briefly, we'll see what is difference between procurement and purchasing. As you know, procurement involves sourcing of suppliers, negotiating with them, closing contracts, and record keeping. Procurement is a more long-term integrated approach to acquiring goods or services for the business or for any organization. Whereas purchasing are often looking to get items for the best price, as well as purchasing focuses on short-term goal and business need. Identification of services goods requirement. This is a very important process, that what type of services or goods are required. In this process, this is determined. And in fact, it is an internal process of an organization or company to formulate the strategy for identification of requirements in terms of goods or services. In this process, the relevant staff must be involved while identification, because they know the best what type of services or the goods are required, what type of quality is required, for how long this will be required. So the staff participation is a must for this process. It helps to set targets for what needs to be procured, along with an established criteria for acceptable quality standards and pricing. As far as the standards or the quality are concerned, you can see you can have one product but of different quality, good quality, poor quality, and same goes for the pricing. Considering the availability of financial resources. So all the purchases, there must be, for all the purchases, there must be allocated budget, and you should have that financial resource while making any procurement, may it be related to services or the goods. Purchase requisition, this is a term. A purchase requisition, an internal document that is initiated by staff who needs to acquire goods or services by detailing the required items, the number required, when they will be required, and the associated cost. You see, at each step, the cost is considered, because do we have all these financial resources to procurement that service or the goods? So it is all related, it is all done at the stage of planning. Procurement planning and budgetary planning all is done at the planning stage. So if we have well planned the required quantity, quality, and we have managed the resources, especially the financial resources for procurement, then we can say that we have a successful procurement management system. And then, as per the policy of the organization, the purchases and the requisitions must be approved by the competent authority. And then once it is approved, it becomes the purchase order. When it was initiated, it was a purchase request. When approved, we can say now it is a purchase order. It is good to procure goods or services. Suppliers identification. How do we identify the suppliers? Suppliers identification and evaluation is the process of searching for potential suppliers who delivers products, materials, or services required by the company or organization. As a result of that, a list of potential suppliers is prepared, and there are different means to identify the suppliers. These could be from trade directories, from trade shows or exhibitions, from social networking, trade associations, or recommendations from others. It helps to get quality product in a best value, product or services for both. What is the difference between vendor and supplier? Briefly, if we say vendor, it is business to customer, B to C, whereas supplier is business to business. Now we see the details of differences. First, we will talk about the vendor. A vendor is an individual or business entity that sells goods or services to customers, often on a smaller scale or directly to individual customers. This is on small scale. Vendor buy products or services from distributors and resell them to others, usually individual customers. So the major thing over here is that the vendor sells to customer and it buys from products from different sources in small quantity. Whereas the supplier is an individual or organization that sell their products in bulk. Here it says in bulk to other business organization or individual. A supplier products or manufacturers goods or material that are then sold to other business for use in their own products or production. For every business transaction, there are two parties. One party is seller and the other is buyer. The seller is mostly referred as the supplier, while receiver is buyer. How do we negotiate contract with the supplier? Procurement negotiation is a strategic discussion between seller and buyer to finalize the acceptable terms and conditions. Of the contract. Before making any contract, first the terms and conditions are agreed and then a contract is signed. It may also take place between employer and prospective employees. Internal discussion and negotiation could also be taken place within the organization related to the acquiring of goods or services or the government of two or more countries. There are different areas related to negotiation. Some of them are the terms of payment. What would be the terms of payment, for instance, in involvement the percentage of when the goods will be received, that part will be paid in installments. All that payment mechanism is made part of the agreement. Quality of goods or services, it is also agreed. And in some cases, the supplier provides the samples of the quality, and while the time of inspection, these samples are considered for comparing whether it is that quality which was agreed or not. Supply and cost of spare parts, if it is especially related to the machinery or equipment. Once the machinery is sold, what will be the mechanism for supply of spare parts, and what will be the cost for that? Delivery or completion date, by when the required goods will be provided by the supplier to the buyer. And in case of any equipment, machinery, will there be a warranty and guarantee? What are those? Documentation requirement, documentation from the seller side as well as from the buyer side. What will be the documents required in order to make the final payment? And what will be the inspection procedure? Maintenance and support of any goods, repair after sales service. So when we say that inspection procedure, again, it is related to the quality of goods or services that is provided, and the number and the cost which was agreed with. Is it within that range or not? This is taken into account at the time of inspection of goods or services. And once it is found appropriate, then the approval of payment is given by the competent authority. And for that purpose, again, it is different from company to company, business to business, what are their policies in terms of approval. Approval in procurement signifies the official acceptance of documents such as expense reports, requisition, or similar request as satisfactory. Once these are satisfactory, then the approval is given. It refers to a series of steps and approval that a company or organization need to go through to authorize a purchase of goods or services. The approval process checks and balances to ensure that the spending are within the budgetary limits. Again, the emphasis on the budgetary limits. We cannot buy any service or product exceeding the budgetary limits. Contracting in procurement management is a procurement contract is a legally binding document. It is legally binding for both the parties, for the supplier and the buyer. That detail an agreement between a buyer and seller. It provides the rights and duties of each party and ensures each party fulfills its terms, including volume, quality of goods, delivery time frame, and payment requirements. Contract management. This is more, I would say it is an important part of the procurement management, which is contract management. Contract management in procurement is a legal agreement between buyer and supplier, ensuring both parties fulfill their obligations for enhancing overall procurement efficiency and effectiveness. The steps in contract management are related to drafting the contract, negotiation, execution. If need be, any type of revision could be made provided both the parties are agreed, and then the tracking of the agreement, and if need be, if more services or goods are needed for the longer period, then both the parties can agree on the terms and condition for the renewal of contract. Supplier management is a systematic approach to supplier management and improve their impact on the buyer's business. It includes managing sourcing, negotiation, supplier deliverables, working collaboratively, managing compliance, risk management, as well as timely payment of invoices. It is very much required for the buyer to act upon the agreement terms when it comes to any condition which is agreed. Same is the case of payment of invoices, payment to the supplier on time. In this case, the currency is also agreed in which country the payment will, in which currency the payment will be made. It is important for both suppliers and organizations or business to engage properly and effectively. The supplier management process could be qualification of the suppliers, classification process, collaborating, and evaluation of supplier. Purchase order. A purchase requisition is an initial internal request made by an employee who needs to acquire goods or services for the business. Once purchase requisition is approved, a purchase order for the item is sent to the supplier. For the purchase order justified need, the need should be justified by the staff, and availability of financial resources must be assured. And now we come to the inspection part of the procurement. A goods receipt is a document associated with account payable. It could be also for services received. This document includes information about quantity, description, and price of the goods or services received by the buyer as per the purchase order, whether it is in line with the purchase order or not. A warehouse receipt is the physical acceptance of goods in the warehouse as a result of an inspection. In some cases, the acquisition may require specialized skills or expertise in examining the goods to determine confirmation. Mostly in cases of machinery equipment, for instance, the expertise is required to confirm whether it is the required quality or the same standard which was agreed in the contract. It can be confirmed only by the expert. Receiving an inspection ensures that the company organization is receiving the correct goods or services. It also helps to identify any error or issues that may need to be addressed. in case if there was any error that can be addressed, such as incorrect quantities, defective products, or shipping damages. Invoice match and payment. I would say this is the final step. Invoice matching ensures accuracy in payments by cross-referencing invoices with relevant documents before approval. An invoice is not paid unless it is approved. It is approved after the verification. It verifies payable amount, validates goods or services received, and maintains precise supplier payment record. An invoice is a document showing details of any goods or services sold and requests an amount in agreed currency payable for the goods or services. An invoice payment is a scheduled payment by the buyer for receipt of goods or services. As we know that these terms and conditions are all the part of an agreement. Everything is included in the agreement in order to avoid any conflict between the buyer and supplier, because the good working relationship could be maintained once all the terms and conditions are very much clear to both the parties. This is the use of receipts in particular currency to match payment in the same currency. Whenever possible, a company that expects to make payments and have receipts in the same foreign currency should plan to set its payments against its receipt in that currency. So the payment should be made according to the terms and conditions. Those are made or included in the contract. And there should be no delays once the goods or services are received according to the agreement. And now I'll ask a question. The statement says no verification is required for payment of an invoice. Is this statement true or false? Can we make any payment without verification? Is it true or false? Please write down your answer in chat box. Okay, now after a while we see the result. The answer, it says it is false. It is false. Say that no verification is required for payment and invoice. You remember we discussed in detail that inspection is must for making any payment. So over here I stop and now I open the key takeaways. Sorry, uh, briefly I'll share with you what are the key takeaways of today's class. And we started with the terms of procurement, and definition of procurement is the strategic process of acquiring goods or services. Procurement management includes overseeing all process involved in acquiring the goods or services. Process of procurement includes sourcing stage, purchasing stage, and the payment stage. And procurement management has a direct impact on maximizing business profit. And we should have procurement principles in order to maintain transparency and avoid any fraud. When we talk about uh, transparency and the principles, these are all related to the values of the organization, because there is a value of there are values, certain values are jotted down for each organization or the company. So these are against those values. Those must be ensured in terms of transparency, and there should be no fraud. Procurement contract is a legally binding document that details an agreement between buyer and seller. Approval of purchase order must ensure the need and availability of financial resources. We talked about before making any payment, there should be a proper inspection related to payable amounts, validation of goods or services received, and maintains precise supplier payment record. All the related records must be maintained. So in brief, these are the takeaways of today's class. Now I open the session